Hey everyone, so I'm going to walk you through how to do Kael'thas as a Prot Paladin Phoenix tank today. And first off, the gear you're going to want a lot of spell hit because the Phoenixes are level 73, so you need a little extra hit so you don't miss too much on them. And the Phoenixes cannot crush, so not a big deal if you aren't crush capped, but generally you're going to want to have a bit of avoidance since you'll probably be tanking the weapon phase as well. So let's just hop straight in. We're going to skip the first 3 bosses in phase 1 just because there's not too much going on there. Starting with Telonicus here. So when he finishes his cast here, if you're moving backwards, you can get him to chase you a little bit. So that's what we're doing right here. And just doing that to move him into position here for the next phase. Well, phase 3, when he reses. And you can dodge all these bombs by just strafing left and right, but we've chosen not to do that just because there's no other damage happening in this phase. So it's extremely easy to heal, and it gives me a lot of mana because I'm taking a lot of damage and getting a lot of heals. So make sure you kill him in a good spot next to Sanguinar, and then get up here to the stage for the weapons. Drop an Avenger's Shield here, and then Consecrate. And generally these weapons all kind of come to the raid. For some reason this week they went to the Warrior, so it's kind of in a bad spot here, but just get up there, Sapper, pick them all up. And the Cosmic Infuser, that's the healing mace. You can look to throw a Hammer of Justice on that just to stun it a little bit so it heals a little bit less. It's going to Holy Nova, which heals all the other weapons and also damages everybody nearby. So it's kind of nice to stun it just so you get a few less of those going out. And the Warp Slicer does quite a bit of damage, so you'll want to watch that, try to kill it pretty quickly, and try not to attack the Phaseshift Bulwark too much because it has a damage return when you attack it, so you'll hurt yourself by attacking it. It's also going to be the last thing in this group of weapons that you're going to kill anyway, so you don't need too much threat on it. Focus on threading some of the other things like the Cosmic Infuser or the Warp Slicer. And here we're just going to loot our Warp Slicer and our Phaseshift Bulwark. I like to use the Phaseshift Bulwark for Phoenix kiting because the proc gives you 50% more movement speed, which is obviously pretty awesome if you're trying to kite. And it lets you pick up the Phoenixes a lot quicker too because where they spawn is RNG, so you don't know really how far you're going to have to travel to possibly pick those up sometimes. This is a good time to put a Superior Wizard Oil on your Warp Slicer. I forgot to for whatever reason here. So make sure you do that. I noticed at the last second there, but it was too late. And so here, Telonicus moved a little bit, so I'm going to need to reposition him here. So at the end of his cast, just move a little bit. You'll get him to chase you. So now they're in position, so the melee can just cleave them easily. And since we're near Sanguinar here, we can be feared. We have a Tremor Totem down so that I could potentially catch it, but Phaseshift Bulwark also has a use effect that makes you immune to fear for 4 seconds. So if you see that fear cast going off there, just make sure you use the Phaseshift Bulwark. I was a little late on mine there, but the Tremor Totem got an instant tick, so it didn't really matter. Depending on how fast your guild can get through this phase, you'll either be tanking Sanguinar or Telonicus. I tank Telonicus because our guild kills all of these guys before Kael even comes back out. If that's not the case for your guild and Telonicus is going to be up for a little bit into phase 4, then you're going to want to be tanking Sanguinar. It really doesn't need a warrior tank just because you have the Phaseshift Bulwark. You can break the fears yourself, and you can just have a Tremor Totem as backup in case he fears a little early. And this phase, we're taking half as much damage from the bombs because we have the healing buff. It's really important that that healing buff's always on you. The Phoenixes do a lot of fire damage, so it'll reduce that by half. And make sure you get Judgment of Wisdom or Crusader up on Telonicus. My mana was pretty good during that, so Crusader might be the one you'd go for there. And here I have to make up for my Wizard Oil mistake, and so I get my Wizard Oil on my Warp Slicer. I get in here, just gonna do a little bit of damage. The Phoenixes generally spawn about like 10 seconds after this phase starts. Just so you know, the DBM timer will be wrong here. So it says it's 36 seconds until the Phoenix spawns, but it's about to spawn here. And there's our Phoenix, but you see the DBM timer reset now. So now it's going to have the correct timer on the Phoenixes. So just be mindful of that for the first Phoenix spawn. And here, there's not a lot of damage going on right now. So we're just going to be sitting here tanking the Phoenixes instead of kiting it. Just getting a lot of threat on it. And this way our mana is going to stay up pretty good too, since we're taking some damage, getting some heals. We also switched to Fire Res Aura here. That's going to help us resist a bit of the Phoenix AoE fire damage here. So that's pretty important. And when the Phoenix starts to get low, just make sure you kite a little bit, because when he turns into an egg, he's going to do an explosion, does some fire damage, and it also knocks you back super far. And when he comes out of the egg, he'll also do that. So make sure you're away from the Phoenix and try to make sure the rest of your raid's away from the Phoenix when he's going into and out of an egg. And here's our second Phoenix spawn. That was a great spawn right there. It was right next to us. And so now we have two Phoenixes. We're still just going to sit here and kite them. Our raid has chosen the strategy to not worry about Phoenixes during this phase at all. Just tank them and kite them when needed. And just wait till the intermission to actually deal with these, since the intermission's like 45 seconds long here. When your HP starts to get kind of low, you can pop the Phaseshift Bulwark. That's going to absorb 100,000 fire damage over 4 seconds. So that'll give a nice little window for healers to catch up. You can also just kite whenever. We generally have pretty awesome healers in our guild, so I am able to stay in a little bit longer than other people might be able to sometimes. And here I actually messed up. I was a little too close to that Phoenix. The knockback range isn't too far, so I maybe just needed to be a yard or two further. But that didn't matter too much since it was during the intermission, but really try not to get hit by those, because as you can see, that knocks you back really, really far. If you get knocked back by one of those in the final phase, it could cause a lot of problems. And also, depending on how the Phoenix timers line up, he can, at the end of his intermission here, summon Phoenixes. And they will, if he is in the air, they will spawn in the air. So you actually need to be watching the air here to make sure there's no Phoenixes flying down, because I have had times before where I was just only watching the ground, wasn't watching up here at all, and a Phoenix spawned way up here and flew down and killed somebody because I was not expecting it to come out of the sky. So here we're just, we get our first Phoenix spawn right there. It's not too bad, it's counted by the raid, so we want to make sure we pick that up really quickly. And during gravity laps here, our two main priorities are not get hit by the Nethergon clouds. They're going to reduce your max HP by 10%, and they stack. You can bubble that off if you need to, but it's better to just not get hit by them. And our second priority here is to get to our Phoenixes as soon as possible and just continue generating threat on them this entire phase. That's going to give us a huge threat lead. If you're just floating in the air there, then healers will actually out-threat you on those sometimes. And so our Phoenix spawned on the opposite side, but we kind of positioned ourselves between the Phoenix and the healers. The Phoenixes are pretty much always going to just beeline it straight for wherever the healers are. And so if you're not able to actually get over to the Phoenix, just putting yourself between the Phoenix and the healers is a pretty good move. And here, everybody's kind of grouped up around our Phoenixes here, so we want to move these out of here because there's going to be some movement during like flame strikes and stuff, so we want to make sure there isn't like a Phoenix turning into an egg or coming out of an egg during one of those that potentially hits some people and knocks them back or kills them. And just making sure that we stay away from the Phoenixes when they start to get low. As you can see, it's not too big of a knockback range there. And that's a great Phoenix spawn for us right there. It was right next to us. Could not have been more perfect almost. Maybe if it was like right over here, but that's a really awesome spawn right there. So now we have 3 Phoenixes. They're all grouped up nice together. And we got Gravity Lab, so we can generate a bunch of threat here. And also, I should have mentioned too, in phase 4, you can get mind controlled. If you get mind controlled, it is going to wipe your threat on the Phoenixes. And if the Phoenix has been up for a while, you might not be able to get that Phoenix back, and whoever it's on may just need to kite it for the remainder of phase 4 until that intermission, or until it turns into an egg if you're killing each Phoenix as it turns into an egg and using that strategy. But in this final phase here, you don't have to worry about the mind controls at all. So all the threat you generate, you're just going to keep that the rest of the fight, which we love to see. And I did switch to my Blood Maw Magus Blade here for a little bit, just because I had 3 Phoenixes grouped up that could consecrate at the same time, get a little extra spell damage for that. But now that Gravity Lapse is close to ending, I switched back to the Warp Slicer, wanted to make sure I got that movement speed proc, so I'm ready to go for when this Gravity Lapse ends, and have my full movement speed. Here, we got basically the worst possible Phoenix spawn. It's on the complete opposite side of us, and we have 3 Phoenixes right now, so anywhere we bring these, there's going to be a ton of AoE damage going out, because you got 3 different fire auras happening at the same time. And this Gravity Lapse, like post-Gravity Lapse portion here, this is the most chaotic, because everybody's still spread out, but they're trying to group back into their little groups. So we have 3 Phoenixes that are going to be super deadly to anybody near them, and we have everybody just kind of in chaos right now. And we need to get to the other side where Phoenix spawned. So I actually messed up here. I should have told the melee to just move to Kael's right side here, so that it created like a little path for me to get over there. But just on the fly, since I saw there was a flamestrike here, there's one person here running forward, there's the whole melee stack there. I decided to just avoid this entire area and come back and hook around to this other side. Again, I think just going straight through there and communicating with the melee would have been the right play there. This ended up working out, hooking around, but you can see this caused a ton of chaos over here when that Phoenix came in here. But that was really unfortunate RNG on that spawn there, but I think we could have executed that better if we did go through the middle there. And so now we got all 4 of them, so this is easy right here. We're just popping our Phaseshift Bulwark so we can stay in, get a little bit of threat here. And you can see I'm really not that far ahead of our priests here. Priests generate insane amounts of threat. So that's why I'm being a little more aggressive here, trying to stay in and get a little extra threat, since he is pretty close. And if this Phoenix does switch and go over to that priest, it's going to cause some problems for us. So that's why I'm trying to be a little more aggressive here. Normally, once you have good threat, you can just kite these guys and not even worry about going in and tanking them. So here, just kind of kiting them around my consecrate. They're all going to blow up there, and we actually killed it right there. So that was a pretty quick fight. For your guild, you might be getting 5 or 6 phoenixes. It could be a little bit longer of a fight. And if you do, it's really just the same stuff over and over again. That's the whole fight right there. It does get a little more chaotic the more phoenixes you have, but just kind of stick to doing a ton of threat on the new phoenix that spawns, and all the other ones you should have tons of threat built up from the gravity lapses and when they had spawned previously. So you shouldn't really have to worry about those, just kind of worry about the newest phoenix that has spawned. And that's the whole fight. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Always happy to answer those, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.